again, slow down.
Your dog is pulling on leash and nothing works? I'm going to talk about why in training dogs we often need to have an attitude adjustment ourselves. If you think of dog training as a process and about working with your dog as a team effort, then you can be your dog's hero. Every beautiful relationship takes some time and investment, and that's true for dogs as well. I had actually planned to do a video this week about teaching non-fetching dogs how to fetch, and I'm still going to do that. I was behind in checking the comments because I took a bit of time off YouTube for a while, but I do like to respond to comments when I can. Then I came across one comment that it just got me in the gut. I didn't respond right away because frankly it brought up some emotions. But then I felt that a response was warranted, not just for the person who posted, but also for anyone else who reads the comments. So I'm just going to read it to you. I'm not going to mention which video or which thread this came from, and I don't want anyone to blame this commenter because we know what we know and we don't know what we don't know. So without mentioning names, it says, I had a 6-month-old BC and she was always pulling at the leash. I used to shout at her and yank her, but she still wouldn't learn. Eventually, I decided to put her down because there are some dogs that just won't learn. I wish I knew about this technique before though. It might have worked and maybe she would still be alive, considering getting another puppy now. So then there were some follow-up comments by someone else that suggested maybe not to get another dog. Then the first commenter said they indeed actually had gotten another dog. And I quote, "It's a Lab BC mix, having the same issues with leash pulling though." There was another commenter that suggested that if this person was getting puppies and putting them down because the pups had too much energy, then maybe they should rethink owning a dog. But the first commenter's response was, "It's not my fault if the dog can't learn. Must be a bad breed. I'm already starting to think this one will have to go the same way as the last one. It makes me sad though." So I'm not here to judge people. I don't know anything about this person's background, where they live, how they've been taught to interact with dogs, what their belief or their expectation is of dogs. I don't even in fact know if this is a real person because, hey, this is the internet. But I do know there are people who really just don't understand that there is a better way to deal with dogs. And so I find it so exceptionally sad that anyone could actually believe that a dog who pulls on the leash is such a complete lost cause that they must be euthanized. So honestly, if that's a message that people are getting from dog trainers, that if your dog is pulling on a leash, then your dog is a bad dog, and that you're supposed to get instant results, then we as dog trainers are not getting the right message across, and we need to start thinking about what we're saying to people and how we're saying it. Because as much as I'd like to come across as a perfect trainer with all perfect dogs, my dogs aren't perfect and I'm not a perfect trainer, and no trainer is perfect. If you happen to have a perfect dog that doesn't need training, then that is amazing because that is the exception, not the rule. And if you're not trying to always improve as a trainer and as a dog owner, then you can get stuck, because if you ever get another dog, then I guarantee you will have more things to learn. And this is challenging, and it can be exciting and life-changing for both you and the dog, because training and interacting with your dog is what builds the amazing bond that people and dogs have together. Our approach to training is the glue that holds everything together in our canine-human relationships. My dog Sprite was an amazing dog. She was a working border collie who did goose control, and we worked together for over 5 years. When we were off to do goose control, she pulled like crazy. Did she pull like crazy because she was a badly bred dog, or because she was a disobedient dog or a bad dog that was not trainable? No, she pulled because doing that work was in her DNA, and she wanted to do it really badly. That enthusiasm and that desire is exactly what made her an amazing working dog. And so if we want amazing working dogs, we're going to have some of this DNA. And in fact, not just border collies, but all dogs. So if a dog has a desire for something, an enthusiasm for something, then when we first get to know them, there's a good chance that they will try to pull on a leash. I'm not saying that every kind of pulling is enthusiasm. Sometimes it's fear-based. And I'm not saying we have to accept leash pulling by any means. In Sprite's working situation, I wanted her to have that drive to send off the geese. So I didn't train her not to pull in that situation. But in other situations, she could walk nicely on a leash. There are all kinds of reasons for pulling, and we have to work with animals, not against them. A lot of us have been taught that dogs want control and they want to be pack leader. But actually, even the term alpha wolf is outdated, and it came from a paper that described 2 wolf packs in captivity. The wolves were unrelated and they were brought together in a zoo. David Meach, who is a senior research scientist, has studied wolves and their prey since 1958. That's before I was born. And this is what he says. The term alpha isn't really accurate when describing most of the leaders of wolf packs because the term implies that the wolves fought and competed strongly to get to the top of the pack. In actuality, the way they get there is by mating with a member of the opposite sex, producing a bunch of offspring, which are the rest of the pack then, and becoming the natural leaders that way, just like with a pair of humans producing a family. Dogs just want what they want, and we want what we want from dogs. So no one is trying to be the head of the pack except maybe some of us. So we have to find ways of taking the inherent nature and tendencies that are within that dog. We can learn to shape and reshape a dog's brain while respecting what they love and creating behaviors that we want based on a vision of what we want our dog to be and a concrete plan. So let me be clear about this. Training is not something that you do a couple of times and your dog is perfect. Training is a process. The exciting thing about having a dog is creating a relationship, and training is what creates that relationship. And training can be fun. Instead of getting mad at your dog, which is really such a waste of energy, we can try to find out what the dog likes and incorporate what that dog likes in order to get the behavior that we want. So where I see hope is that the commenter said that if they'd known about the technique for training, then it might have worked and their dog might still be alive. And with a new pup, which they said they were starting to think they'd have to euthanize, they did feel sad about it. So my tiny bit of hope is the fact that there is a sadness when people feel like euthanasia is really their only option, and they just don't know that there are other choices. They don't know that their dog is not a bad dog or a bad breed or even a badly bred dog. I can't judge others who believe that dogs can't learn because those people themselves don't know better. That's why I created a YouTube channel, because I wanted people to have some relatively free resources. But if you're going to invest in a dog, you need to also invest a little bit into training. Dogs don't train themselves. And if we want certain behaviors from dogs, we should expect to be doing some training with them. I'm going to post a link in the description below to one of the courses that helped me understand some new ways of training loose leash walking. And that course is not free, but it's such an investment in your relationship with your dog. And of course, there are free resources on my YouTube channel. Leash walking is so much more than just having your dog walk by your side. It's also about creating a dog that wants to interact with you and that wants to be with you and finds it rewarding to be with you. So what can we all do as individuals to help others understand dogs? We can spread the word. We can let people know that there are resources for teaching dogs, and a lot of them are free. There is a lot of free stuff. We can show them things that we ourselves learn with our dogs. We can show them a better way. People are never going to change by being told that they're wrong, told that they're bad. People will make small increments of change, just like our dogs, when they can see that there is a better way of doing things. Quick behavior fixes using punishing techniques to get your dog to do what you want will not help your bond and your relationship with your dog. Consistent, short training sessions will move you forward. Set your dog up for success by not putting them in a position where they will repeat the behaviors that you don't want. Because if you keep walking your dog and they keep pulling, you'll likely get more of the same behavior. You can do games instead of a traditional walk. Are there dogs that are badly bred? Sure, there are dogs that have less than perfect genetics, but my newest puppy that was bred for working and comes from a pretty amazing gene pool, struggles with overexcitement and yes, pulling, and has a lot of difficulty with recall. And these are things that I will be working on and reinforcing throughout his life, but especially during his younger dog years, I'll be really focusing on it. And I can't compare my dog and his lack of recall skills to any other dog because, for example, Sprite at the same age had amazing recall, and I did very little recall training with her. She was that way. She just had it in her to do that. And she was a rescue. It's like some of us are great at certain things. I like dog training, video production, writing, but I would be a terrible nurse or a doctor. And we need all the different varieties of personalities and types in the human world and in the dog world too. So for example, with Raven, he can walk nicely in some situations, but when I walk him towards my large field, he gets so excited that he can pretty much lose his mind. And that can mean pulling on leash. He's a border collie that was bred to work at a distance, so he prefers to be at a distance from me and from the other dogs. So instead of putting him in that situation, I've had to be more creative. So I'm doing training games near and on the road to the field, and they're all games that involve him being close to me. He gets rewarded by coming to me. So instead of actually doing a walk, I will do fetch along the path and just go back to the house after. I'm teaching him to jump in my arms and do leg weaves. So often we'll do those things on that path instead of walking, and instead of letting him yank me around. And we also use the techniques and games that I show in the videos that I will link to at the end of this video. And do check those out. Those are the essential walking skills that I use for all of my dogs. Dogs can be a lot of work for sure, but they're so worth the time and the investment. Check out these videos, and if you're interested in a great course on stress-free walking, then check for it in the description below. See you next time, and remember that you can be your dog's hero.